Good morning and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Kivley Kids Cozy Corner. I am Miss Kivley and I am excited to get started on continuing with James and the Giant Peach. It was kind of a little cliffhanger Monday also, so we've had 2 cliffhanger days in a row. But let's start with our pledge and let's start with our motto and then we will go from there. I will get out of the way so you can see the flag. There we go. Salute and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and as usual, we'll come over here and read our Bucket Fillers poster. And here we go. Whoops, sorry, I didn't put the tripod down all the way. And begin. We are students at Peter J. Shields. We believe in kindness. We are responsible. We are persistent. We are respectful. We are bucket fillers. We drop acts of kindness into everything we do. We are Peter J. Shields. So wow, every day when I read that and I'm thinking about what we're doing with James and the Giant Peach, I have little different thoughts that come to mind. I think about being respectful, and oh my goodness, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker, they could sure use a lesson or two on how to be respectful, because even though they're the adults, they need to be more kind. They need to find that kindness and be a little more kind. I should have showed you Nemo. He's asleep down here on the bed. Remember the bed I showed you that's right here on my feet? He's asleep there right now, and I don't want to disturb him, but he might come up later. You never know with him. In the meantime, let's jump straight into James because, oh my goodness, I can't wait to find out what happens. I kind of know what happens, but you know, I just love reading them. So here we go. If you remember from yesterday, the old man gave James the green crocodile tongues. Ooh, that sounded kind of interesting. And instructed him not to lose them and not to let them come in contact with anything but him, and gave him explicit, direct instructions of what to do. So now let's see what happens. Chapter 5. The next moment, James was running back towards the house as fast as he could go. He would do it all in the kitchen, he told himself, if only he could get there without Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker seeing him. He was terribly excited. He flew through the long grass and the stinging nettles, not caring whether he got stung or not, on his bare knees, and in a distance he could see Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker sitting in their chairs with their backs towards him. That's a good thing. He swerved away from them and so to go around to the other side of the house, but then suddenly, just as he was passing underneath the old peach tree that stood in the middle of the garden, his foot slipped and he fell flat on his face in the grass. Oh, the paper bag burst open and it hit the ground. And the thousands of tiny green things were scattered out in all directions. James immediately picked himself up onto his hands and knees and started searching around for his precious treasures. But what is this? They were all sinking into the soil. He could actually see them wriggling and twisting as they burrowed their way downward to the hard earth. And at once he'd reach out to his hand to pick them up, and before he knew it, it was too late. They disappeared into the ground, right under his fingers. He went after some others, and the same thing happened, and he began to scrambling around frantically in an effort to catch hold of all that were left, but they were too quick for him. Each time, the tips of his fingers were just about to touch them, and they vanished into the earth. As soon, in the space of only a few seconds, every single one of them was gone. Oh, James felt like crying. He would never get them back now. They were lost forever. But where had they gone to? And why in the world had they been so eager to push down the earth like that? What were they after? There was nothing down there. Nothing except the roots of an old peach tree and a whole lot of earthworms and centipedes and insects living in the soil. But what was it the old man had said again? Whoever they meet first, be it bug, insect, animal, or tree, that will be the one who gets the full power of their magic. Good heavens, thought James. What is going to happen in case they do meet an earthworm, or a centipede, or a spider? And what if they do go to the roots of the peach tree? Get up at once, you lazy little beast, a voice suddenly shouted in James' ear. James glanced up and saw Aunt Spiker standing over him, grim and tall and bony, glaring at him through her steel-rimmed spectacles. Get back over there immediately and finish chopping up those logs, she ordered. Aunt Sponge, fat and plumpy as a jellyfish, came waddling behind her sister to see what was going on. Why don't we just lower the boy down in the well in a bucket and leave him there for 3 nights? She suggested. That ought to teach him not to laze around like this all day long. Oh, that's very good, Wheeze, my dear Sponge. But let's make him finish chopping the wood first. Be off with you at once, you hideous little brat, and do some more work. So I don't know about you guys, but who's the lazy ones here? Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker? Or James? Oh, slowly, sadly, poor James got up off the ground and went back to the woodpile. Oh, if he hadn't slipped and hadn't fallen and dropped the precious bag. All hope of a happier life had gone completely now. Today and tomorrow and the next day and all the other days as well would be nothing but punishment, pain, unhappiness, and despair. He picked up the chopper and he was about to start chopping away again when he heard a shout from behind him that made him stop and turn. Sponge, Sponge, come here at once. Look at this. At what? It's a peach, Aunt Spiker was shouting. A what? A peach! Right up there on the highest branch. Can't you see it? I think you must be mistaken, my dear Spiker. That miserable tree never has any peaches on it. There's one now, Sponge. Look for yourself. Oh, you're just teasing me, Spiker. You make my mouth water on purpose when there's nothing to put in it. Why, that tree's never even had a blossom on it, let alone a peach. Right up there on the highest branch, you say? I can't see a thing. Ha ha, very funny. Good gracious me. Oh, be blowed. There really is a peach up there. A nice big one, too, Aunt Spiker said. A beauty, yes, a beauty, Aunt Sponge cried out. At this point, James slowly put down his chopper, turned around, and looked across at the 2 women who were standing underneath the peach tree. Oh, something is about to happen, he told himself. Something peculiar is about to happen at any moment, he thought. He hadn't the faintest idea what it might be, but he could feel it in his bones that something was going to happen soon. He could feel it in the air around him, in the sudden stillness that had fallen upon the garden. James tiptoed a little closer to the tree. The ants were not talking now. They were just standing there staring at the peach. There was not a sound anywhere, not even a breath of wind. And overhead the sun blazed. Sorry, let's start over. Overhead the sun blazed down upon them, let out a deep blue sky. It looks ripe to me, Aunt Spiker said, breaking the silence. Well, then why don't we eat it, Aunt Sponge suggested, licking her thick, fat lips. We could each have half. Hey, you, James, come over here at once. Climb this tree. So there they are, getting poor James involved. James came running over. I want you to pick that tree up there on the highest branch, Aunt Sponge went on. Can you see it? Yes, Auntie Sponge, I see it. And don't you dare eat any of it for yourself. Your Aunt Spiker and I are going to have it between the 2 of us, right here and now. Half each. Now get on with it. Get up there. Go. James crossed over the tree trunk. Stop! Aunt Spiker said quickly. Hold everything! She was staring up at the branches with her mouth wide open and her eyes bulging as though she had seen a ghost. Look, she said. Look, Sponge. Look. Oh, what's the matter with you? Aunt Sponge demanded. It's growing, Aunt Spiker cried. It's getting bigger. And bigger. What is? The peach, of course. Oh, you're joking. Well, look for yourself. But my dear Spiker, that's perfectly ridiculous. That's impossible. That's... Now, wait a minute. No, that can't be right now. Yes, great Scott, the thing really is growing. It's nearly twice as big already. Aunt Spiker shouted. It can't be true. It is true. It's a miracle. Watch it. I am watching it. Good heavens alive, Aunt Spiker said. I am actually seeing the thing bulging and swelling before my very eyes. Oh my goodness. That peach is growing. Chapter 7. I don't think I told you guys when we got to chapter 6. Chapter 7. Here we go. The 2 women and the small boy stood absolutely still in the grass underneath the tree, gazing up at this extraordinary fruit. James's little face was glowing with excitement and his eyes were as big and bright as stars. He could see the peach swelling larger and larger, as clearly as if it were a balloon being blown up. Can't you just see that in your head, the balloon blowing up and that being the peach? In half a minute, it was the size of a melon. In another half a minute, twice as big again. Just look at it growing, Aunt Spiker cried. Will it ever stop? Aunt Sponge shouted, waving her fat arms into the distance. And now it was so big, it looked like an enormous butter-colored pumpkin dangling from the top of the tree. Get away from that tree trunk, you stupid boy, Aunt Spiker yelled. The slightest shake and I'm sure it'll fall. It must weigh 20 or 30 pounds at least. So let's think about 20 or 30 pounds at least. I don't know about you guys, but in the summertime I like watermelon. And to get a good-sized little watermelon, they're not even like 10 pounds. So I think, 20 or 30 pounds of a peach, that's gotta be huge, humongous, like a huge, huge pumpkin. All right, back to work, sorry. So the branch that Perch was growing upon was beginning to bend over further and further because of the weight. Stand back, Aunt Sponge shouted. It's coming down, the branch is gonna break. But the branch didn't break. It simply bent over more and more as the peach got heavier. And still it went on growing. In another minute, this mammoth fruit was as large and round and fat as Aunt Sponge herself, and probably just as heavy. It has to stop now, Aunt Spiker yelled. It can't go on forever. But it didn't stop. Soon it was the size of a small car and reached halfway to the ground. Both ants were now hopping around and around the tree, clapping their hands and shouting all sorts of silly things. Hallelujah, Aunt Spiker shouted. What a peach, what a peach. Terrifico, Aunt Sponge cried out. Magnifico, splendifico, and oh, what a meal, Aunt Sponge said. It's still growing. I know. And as for James, he was spellbound by the whole thing, that he could only stand there and stare and murmur quietly at himself. Oh, isn't it beautiful? It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Shut up, you little twerp, Aunt Spiker snapped, happening to overhear him. It's none of your business. That's right, Aunt Sponge declared. It's nothing to do with you whatsoever, so keep out of it. Look, Aunt Spiker shouted. It's growing faster than ever now. It's speeding up. I see it, Spiker, I do. So look at that, it's just really huge now, kind of like the cover of the page, or the cover of the book. We can see little James right above my finger there. Bigger and bigger grew the peach, bigger and bigger and bigger. Then at last, it had become as nearly as tall as the tree itself that it was growing on. As tall and as wide, in fact, as a small house. But the bottom part of it gently touched the ground, and there it rested. It can't fall off now, Aunt Sponge shouted. It's stopped growing, Aunt Spiker cried. No, it hasn't. Yes, it has. No, it hasn't. Yes, it has. It's slowing down, Spiker. It's slowing down. But it hasn't stopped yet. Watch it. There was a pause. It has now. I believe you're right. Do you think it's safe to touch it? I don't know. We'd better be careful. Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker began walking slowly around the peach, inspecting it very cautiously from all sides. There was a couple of hunters who had just shot an elephant and were quite not sure whether it was dead or alive, and the massive round fruit leaned over toward them, looked like little... let me start that over. There were a couple of hunters who had just shot an elephant and were not quite sure whether it was dead or alive, and the massive round fruit towered over them so high that they looked like midgets from another world beside it. The skin of the peach was very beautiful, a rich buttery yellow with patches of brilliant pink and red. The Aunt Sponge advanced cautiously and touched it with the tip of one finger. It's ripe. It's perfect. Now, see here, Spiker. Why don't we get us a shovel right away and dig it out, a great big hunk of it for you and me to eat? So I'm going to back up a little bit. I love that description. So if you like art and you want to try something, listen to this description again. The skin of the peach was very beautiful, a rich buttery yellow with patches of brilliant pink and red. See if you could draw that. Crayons, colored pencils, anything you may have. And here's that kind of picture example to see how little the tree is compared to the peach. And you could draw something similar and then color it. No, Aunt Spiker said, not yet. Well, why ever not? Because I say so. But I can't wait to eat some, Aunt Sponge cried out. She was watering at the mouth, and now a thin trickle of spit was running down the side of her chin. My dear Aunt Sponge, said Spiker slowly, there's a pile of money to be made out of this. You just wait and see. And kiddos, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. And I don't mean to cut this off, but I'm on limited time. Have a great day and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.